First up, the big story this morning. The United States has sent out a clear warning to Pakistan. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis has said that his country will try one more time to work with Pakistan. But if Pakistan fails to destroy terrorist safe havens in its territory, President Trump will not hesitate to take tough actions against Islamabad. During a House Armed Service Committee hearing, Mattis said the president is prepared to take whatever steps are necessary. He said terrorists had been allowed safe havens in Pakistan, and there is need to change that. Listen in.
We have an enormously powerful number of options there. Right now, I would like to think we will be successful, but you ask a very good question, because we don't want a transient or temporary change, and then things go back the bad way. But I think that right now, with the growing consensus against terrorism, they'll find themselves diplomatically isolated. They'll find themselves economically in increasing trouble as countries that are damaged by this terrorism coming out of there say enough is enough and take steps. There's an awful lot of advantage to Pakistan of coming online with the international community. And I think that we have to stay focused there, but the penalties are just as significant as the advantages if they choose to go a different direction. But for right now, we need to try one more time to make this strategy work with them, by, with, and through the Pakistanis. And if our best efforts fail, President Trump is prepared to take whatever steps are necessary.
And Mattis will be travelling to Islamabad soon, even as he says the U.S. is having second thoughts about Pakistan's involvement with NATO. Mattis, in fact, said that the U.S. will consider revoking Pakistan's status as a major non-NATO ally due to its support for the Taliban network.
We are aligning what Department of Treasury, Department of Defense, the intelligence community, Department of State say this is what we must ask Pakistan to do to change its behavior. At the same time, we are aligning that with NATO, so we have 39 other nations that will also be reinforcing us. As you know, I just visited New Delhi about the situation they face on their border. There are a number of ways, based on a very recent visit by the Pakistan Chief of Army Staff to Kabul about 3 days ago, that we can help Pakistan to see its way forward to do what is in its own best interest. We will do this in a holistic, integrated way. Holistic means whole of government and integrate with our allies, and that's across South Asia. This strategy is not exclusive. In other words, any nation that wants to fight back against terrorism and reduce this threat to all nations is more than welcome. It is not exclusive of Pakistan, it's inclusive, and that's why we started with a regionalized strategy. As we move this forward, we are going to have to find common ground with Pakistan, and as you know, the international community does not stand for terrorism. So there are decisions Pakistan must make. They have lost more troops than probably any other fighting terrorists.
And earlier during the Senate hearing, top U.S. military officials said that Pakistan's main spy agency, ISI, has extensive ties with terror groups in Pakistan and Afghanistan.
The Taliban will, just against U.S. and coalition will. It's the Taliban will against the Afghans and the Afghan forces in particular. You know, last year the Afghan forces had 16,000 soldiers killed, and they stayed in the fight. They've proved incredibly resilient. Sure, they've had battlefield shortfalls, and we know what they are, and our failure analysis identified those, and the plan that we have proposed is designed specifically to address where there are tactical gaps in their capability.
Remember, the United States in 2012 designated the Pakistan-based Haqqani network as a terrorist organization. Now, Pakistan argues that it has done a great deal to help the United States in tracking down terrorists, and also pointed out that it has suffered hundreds of deaths in terrorist attacks in response to its crackdowns. Islamic Pakistan, the United States has acknowledged India as an important player in South Asia. Now, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said that India plays an important role in the South Asian region. Mattis' comments comes during House Armed Service Committee hearing on Tuesday. Now, Mattis also said that he will closely work with India to promote security and stability in Afghanistan.
India has an outsized role to play because of its size. I think because it's as raucous a democracy as we are, frankly. It gives people hope that their voices can be heard, that economic opportunity can be passed broadly in a society, not to a corrupt few. And I think their example alone is important. It's why we are looking at this strategic convergence as an opportunity for steady engagement, so we actually do pragmatic things together. I think in this regard, if there's any way for Pakistan and India to open their border to trade at great economic advantage to both of those countries.
That was James Mattis, in fact, recognizing India as one of the leading powers in South Asia and also saying plays an important role in South Asia right now. And joining me on the program is our senior correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran. Good morning, Ramesh. What do you make of the statements? One, the United States identifies India as a leading power in South Asia, in fact, tackling many issues. On the other hand, Pakistan is being slammed for providing safe haven to terrorists and also having the ISI allegedly having links with terror groups.
Morning, Jessica. Now, under the American laws, the defense minister has to appear before the legislature at regular intervals to brief the lawmakers on the situation obtaining on some crises around the world. And yesterday we saw Defense Minister James Mattis appear before a hearing at the House Armed Services Committee. The topic was political and security situation in Afghanistan. And it is in that hearing that Defense Minister James Mattis said that America would want to try one more time to work with Pakistan. And he said that if it doesn't work, then there are other options open to the Trump administration, namely to either cut military aid to Pakistan or to remove the non-NATO status ally given to Pakistan, or to declare it as a rogue state or even a state sponsor of terrorism. So that's the situation obtaining insofar as U.S.-Pakistan relations go, Jessica, and those relations are plummeting by the day as we speak. The other issue that you raised, Jessica, was about in the Senate, the upper house of American legislature, where a Joint Chief of Staff Chairman, Joseph Dunford, said that it is clear to him that the ISI, the external intelligence wing of Pakistan, has connections with terror groups. Remember, in 2011, for instance, the then U.S. Navy Admiral Mike Mullen had said to the American legislature that he believes that the Haqqani network is a veritable arm of the ISI. So that should give you a sense of where things stand as far as U.S.-Pakistan relations go, Jessica.
All right, Ramesh, do stay with us. We're also being joined by Lieutenant General Raj Kadhian. Good morning, Mr. Kadhian. What do you make of these statements? Do you think this will help, or is U.S. ready for tougher action?
Well, every country is entitled to follow their own policies which are in their self-interest. But however, it cannot be denied that there is a great ambivalence in the voice that is coming out of the United States. After the president categorically had made a statement recently based on inputs received from his generals who are at the ground zero in Afghanistan, he had clearly castigated Pakistan and left no doubt the time has come for Pakistan to be taken to task. Now, a different kind of statement coming out of America, that they're willing to give another chance to Pakistan. Firstly, it is a clear case where more reliance is being placed on hope than experience. I think Pakistan has been given ample chances, but they have not stopped sponsoring terror attacks both in India as well as in Afghanistan. This will also, unfortunately, give a wrong signal to Pakistan that the Americans are now having a rethink based on their compulsions. And that will place Pakistan even in a stronger position to continue to show arrogance to the Americans. Pakistan of late has been walking on the Chinese crutches that the whole world knows. But Pakistan should know that the Chinese support is not open-ended and cannot take them too far. After all, China has its own obligation to the
right. Absolutely, as rightfully pointed out, Lieutenant General Qadian. Let me also go across to my colleague Ramesh. Ramesh, Pakistan's relationship with US, especially if we look at under the Trump administration, do you think they've hit a rock bottom after US President put Pakistan on notice just last month? And in fact, he said that we can no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe haven for terrorist organizations. And now we hear James Mattis come and reiterate that stance.
Well, in a sense, Jessica, General Qadian has a point there when he says that Trump, in his August 21 speech outlining the South Asia strategy, had clearly called Pakistan out for supporting terror groups and for giving them safe havens on Pakistani soil. And he said that this has to change immediately. And today, as General Qadian says, America is possibly having a rethink and is giving Pakistan one more time. And that, to his mind, is unwarranted and unjustified, given the American experience of Pakistan and dealing with Pakistan over the last many decades. But that's probably true in one side of the story. But the fact remains that America is possibly having a rethink and coming around to India's view at the same time that Pakistan cannot run with a hare and hunt with a hound. It has to take a position and desist from giving support to Pakistani terror groups operating both against India and Afghanistan. And possibly, Jessica, that mood and sentiment is changing on Capitol Hill as we speak. Remember, a former U.S. lawmaker, Larry Presser, told WION not so long ago that in his estimation, he thinks Pakistan is a fit case for being declared a terrorist state, and that India and the U.S. should both consider surgical strikes to remove Pakistan's nuclear launch capability.
Absolutely valid point there, Ramesh. And also, Lieutenant General Qadian, if one were to ask you, do you feel that diluting Pakistan's status as a major non-NATO ally would really help here, or we can expect tougher actions from the United States if the one more time strategy fails?
I think Pakistan has been given all kinds of chances, to my way of thinking. The dollar support has been flowing in from Americans, which they have misused, and they have stabbed the Americans in the back, not once but repeatedly. I mean, they hid Osama bin Laden, who was their #1 terrorist, and for a number of years they did it under the nose of the military academy. I don't think Americans should have had any doubt on Pakistan's intentions, but it may be American compulsion, as Pakistan is likely to conclude that they cannot get rid of Pakistan's support, and they are reluctant out of their own self-interest to declare Pakistan as a state sponsoring terrorism. But from Indian point of view, I don't think that is a very happy development. India continues to be the target of terror attacks which are coming from the Pakistani soil, including one that came yesterday. So India would have been happier if some kind of sanctions are imposed on Pakistan for continuing to use terror as an instrument of the state policy and for hurting other countries in the neighborhood. I would still feel that the Americans need to do a rethink on their rethink and take a very pragmatic decisions and not be ambivalent about the policy.
Right, absolutely. A rethink on their rethink, a strategy of sorts will have to work here for Pakistan. Now, thank you, gentlemen, both my colleague Ramesh Ramachandran and Lieutenant General Qadian for joining us on the program and discussing this particular news in detail.